Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this second episode of IMPAKT TV. My name is Arjon Dunnewind, next to me Friso Wiersum, and I'm very happy to have as a special guest today Guido van der Werve. Actually, I'm very happy that you're alive, Guido, because you had a serious accident a few years ago, recovered from it miraculously. We're here to talk with you for about an hour about your work. There's an important exhibition at the Film Museum. And we have also some stuff prepared for you in our portal.
At least that is for the people that are watching live to this interview, because if you're reviewing this show on YouTube, you won't have access to that special environment. But if you're in Planet IMPAKT, you might find an interview done by our museum with Guido. You might find some translated news clippings from Dutch newspapers. And in there is also the trailer for the exposition Palpable Futility that is on view at our museum right now, and we thought it would be a good opening before we start with our conversation. Let's look at a little clip. And there we are again. Guido, the little clip shows a few of the clips that are, I think, the best known parts of your work, including you walking in front of an icebreaker. And that video number 8, bears also the title, Everything is Going to Be Alright. And looking at the bigger spectrum of your work, we might perhaps conclude that Everything is Going to Be Alright is quite an ironical take on the things that you have been doing. Why such a title?
Well, I number my films, so this was number 8, and I have a bit of tendency to be a poet, so I also collect sentences, and I use those sentences as subtitles. So my films always have a title, number something, and then a subtitle which says more poetically about what the film is about. So in this case, this sentence made a lot of sense for me.
Because you didn't have any accidents while walking in front of an icebreaker?
No.
Or?
No. No, I also rented a boat for a day, and also we made sure that everything happened safe, or like as safe as we could. So I spoke to the captain, and he wanted to be sure to see the back of my head all the time. And he had I had a headset. I heard the cameraman who was in contact with the captain, so I was sure that everything was going to be all right.
All right. And then you said you hired an icebreaker.
Yeah.
You can just hire a boat like this?
Rent it, yeah. Well, this boat is in Kemi, in the north of Botnic Gulf in Finland, and this is an old icebreaker which now used as a kind of company trip, a day off or something. You can go somewhere on an icebreaker, so it's not functioning as an icebreaker anymore, but more like a
Team outings.
yeah.
And then maybe you can take us into the process of, you might be sitting in your studio, which can be in Finland, but can also be if you are residing in Berlin, and then you think, I just want to go over to the Arctic and walk in front of an icebreaker.
Well,
how does it work?
Actually, before that, probably a year before that, we went to an island off the coast of Helsinki, And we went there on a ferry, and there was a bit of ice, so the ferry was functioning like a small icebreaker. And I was standing on the hull of the icebreaker looking how the ice broke. And I thought, I wonder if I can walk in front of it. So it was a 5-second idea, which my hit single.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be a pianist, and I also analyzed how composers work, or like musicians, composers work in this area. I think they abstract their state of mood into something that only a mood is less of what they're trying to say. And I try to work the same way. I use my state of mind as a searchlight and look around, and if I see something, I have a small eureka moment.
Yeah.
So in this case, that was the case.
This should be it.
Yeah, it was really like 5-second idea, and it's just.
And then it takes 1 year from the eureka moment to the event to actually materialize.
Well, then also, because I produced my films then at the same myself, so I had to organize that. Mm-hmm. So I had the idea, then you look where you got a icebreaker. Then it was, of course, a couple of countries where it maybe would have been possible, but Finland was most willing to do it, so. Yeah. Anyone goes there anyways.
I've been looking at especially the thickness of the ice, and in some parts it looks like it's only 20 centimeters.
Yeah.
And you were never afraid that even without the icebreaker, things were not going to be all right?
No. Well, also, actually, that shooting was delayed that year because the ice was not thick enough. And now with the global warming, it's probably getting less and less that, you know, it's possible. Maybe we don't need any icebreakers anymore in the future, I don't know, but
yeah,
it was thick enough. But I could feel the ice break, but I wasn't scared.
And then the sound that you hear when you are watching this movie, it's like a...
Well, it's a live recording of the sound.
And this is the sound you also heard while walking outside?
Yeah,
because I was wondering...
not that loud, but also we had good microphones, and yeah, but I could hear it, yeah.
And
I could hear and feel it.
It's a beautiful sound and gets you very much in the mood, I thought, well,
and I always want to put music in my films, and then when I had this idea, then I thought, well, maybe I can actually play piano, which is pulled in front of the icebreaker. You know, I had all kinds of ideas, but then it took a bit of time to reduce the idea to what it was in the shortest action, and you know, I'm not playing the piano. It would be totally weird for me.
Well, no, this is a very normal image, so then the piano...
Well, yeah, then you have other, you know, things. This is, I like the simplicity of this and the minimalism.
So then...
It is what it is. It is.
You've been touching on music twice in this short little time that we've been having.
Yeah.
And you've been saying in much of your earlier interviews that, of course, music is actually your first love.
Yeah.
And then for yourself, you decided that that was not the thing that you were going to be the best in. How did you switch, if I may call it switch, from making and studying music into being a performance artist that is recording the performances and then becoming a video artist, if you may say this? Filmmaker.
What would you say?
Yeah.
A visual artist.
Well, actually, when I was in high school, I loved playing the piano. And my father was a drawing teacher. He went to Rietveld also in Amsterdam. And many times we went to the Boymans in Rotterdam, and I was looking at the visual art, and it did not really touch me as music did. I love music, and then I thought maybe I'd become a pianist, but when I was about to finish high school, I thought I don't think I'm good enough to go to the conservatory. And also the life of a pianist did not seem so good to me, that you're all as good as your last performance and you're practicing the whole time. So I did a lot of different things, and then I thought I also like to build things. I thought maybe I can become an inventor, so I went to the Technical University in Delft to study industrial design.
Yeah.
I hated it, and I went to an art school to do it there. And then in the first year we had to try all kinds of things, and then I started to do performances, and then I needed music at some point, and I could play the piano. So that was a
Did you
no-brainer.
ever do the entry test at the conservatory, or it
No.
was a decision you made for yourself?
No, I didn't dare.
In one of the interviews you described how magically wonderful it is to play piano, what it does with your brain. I understand, or that's what I got, is that you maybe don't like to be on stage, like a pianist for a profession, but why not become a composer by now? I mean, could you afford to do what you love most, and I understand playing piano and composing music is what you love most? Or is there something special also to making a film, which is a team effort? You need to work with a producer, for instance.
Yeah. And you have, well, when I was in art school, I needed to get to make some money, so I had a job to work in a cinema. And then there I saw people laughing and crying, watching the movie, and I thought, well, it's like music in a way. So for me, it's the perfect combination of both, and I would not like to choose either one of them. I like to do everything.
So I think even in the life of a piano player, then there's a few things in the life of piano, I wouldn't know what I'm asking, that seem close to a few of the things that you're touching on in your work too. You need to be doing things on the monotonous rhythm to become very good for a short moment. You need to have endurance, and many of the things that you're practicing will never be public, and you don't know what the result is going to be. And I think it touches on a few of the themes in your work, that there's hardships and there's chaos, and you need to, perhaps this might be overstating it, battle hard to overcome them, because there's chaos, and if not, chaos might prevail. But then, even if you overcome that chaos, it might be, as is also the title of your exposition at iMuseum, it might be futile, because then what is going to be there if the last performance is not going to be your star performance?
Yeah, and I like the way of thinking, because it's a different way of thinking if you're playing music or if you learn something by heart, or it's a different way of actually working with your brain, like you said. I also, my partner showed me that if you are playing piano, you have like fireworks in your head, and it's not verbal. We think verbally, and as a creative person, I try to always check myself when I'm thinking verbally, because then you start making artistic crossword puzzles or something, and it's I think there should be more, like there should be more the mood of the color, the emotion, all these things that come from music.
How do you navigate that area where, I mean, you also don't want things to be vague, still too personal, only recognizable for yourself. The other end is you don't want to make artistic crossword puzzles.
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, do you decide sometimes, okay, this is maybe still too personal, no one would understand it? How do you deal with that issue?
Well, I try also talk to a lot of also my partner, also friends, also my galleries, or friends who are in the cultural world, that sometimes I show them something. Also being in art schools helped me to, sometimes you think this is great, and then you show it to a studio visitor and is thinking, why the hell this So you see if it works or it doesn't work, and you never know. Of course, it's also not so important. I think it's could be also a problem if you think that you know what you're doing. I like the fact that you don't. And also now the feature film I'm making is much more, it's fiction in a way, it's much more explaining. I don't know yet if there will be something left that's universal, I hope so, but we'll see.
Maybe more on that feature movie later on, because I think when you touched on that you're also visiting art schools and showing your work to students, let's get back to number 2, the first one that actually got you into being a filmmaker, for the artist, which is, just because I'm standing here doesn't mean I want to, which is you making a performance in front of the home of your parents.
The street I was born in.
Yeah. And here you've been adding a lot of elements to the street. There's, well, perhaps visible for the viewers, a body lying on the street that was hit by a car, and then there's a, how do we call it, military police car where actually ballerinas step out and start performing on the street. So you're actually dressing up the street that you have been calling it one of the most ugly streets that you know.
Well, yeah, it's just a very typical, you know, Dutch street. But at this time I studied Russian also, and then I did an exchange in St. Petersburg. And the campus I lived in was overseeing a 5-lane highway. Then in the morning, because I did a summer program there, we could do it after the first year to do a month of studying in Russia, St. Petersburg. I went there, and then the assignment that we got was to make a contact, write a contact ad for yourself. And then I wrote then in Russian, "Утро я не могу вставать, днем вкусно, ночью я не могу спать." That's the sentence that 's ochtends kan ik niet opstaan, 's middags, etc. And then I wrote that. Then I went back to the campus, and I was sitting with a friend of mine. We were looking over this 6-lane highway. There was a pedestrian bridge over it, only one after, with like 3 kilometers. Then a person just tried to run over it, tried to go to the other side, and he was hit by a car full speed. And then the car stopped, and he was in disbelief, so he just tried to make this guy stand up again. He let him go, and he dropped dead like a bag of potatoes. And then I was looking at that with my friend, and we said, well, now what? And because we studied at the State University in St. Petersburg, we had the student card and all the cultures for free. And almost every night we went to the Mariinsky theater there to see mostly classical ballet. And that's what we did that day. We got a big bottle of vodka, and we went to a ballet performance. In the night I was lying in bed, that all these 3 things that I saw today, or like, it just made sense to me somehow. That was my day in St. Petersburg. And I was doing my end exam in the Rietveld Academy, and I thought this is somehow these things fit together. It's of a magic realism. It really does not verbally make any sense, but it was that day.
And then I think it's also in the text around this first film, when you were saying people were always asking me if I was doing a performance or whether I was actually making a film, and that while the making of this film you decided I would just tell everybody I am making a film here.
Yeah, that was also because in the 3rd or 4th year in the Rietveld I was doing a lot of performances, and I asked a friend of mine to just film it. And that's also how it looked like. So the teachers always ask me, is this a registration of a performance or is this a video art piece?
Yeah.
I got this question for 2 years. Of course, I wanted to get away from this question. And then when I had this idea, I thought I'm going to get a camera person. I'm going to, create a nice set, ballerinas and everything, so that, the video stands like a house. So nobody asked me, is this a registration of a performance? Everybody understood that this is a video art piece. Yeah. And this was my end exam piece, and it was the first work I made myself that I liked. So it was a good situation to graduate with it.
And then the number one is the big secret that you're...
It's not really a big secret, but also I was trying film for the first time, so I borrowed a 60mm camera, and I was walking around just filming random stuff. And then when I made this film, I had to come up with a title, and I thought, well, it's the second film I ever made, so let's call it number 2.
Yeah.
Number 8, the one that we started with, the Icebreakers, maybe your most famous film.
Yeah.
We know it's not your favorite film. We'll get to that maybe later. At least I read on that. Does it bother you that most people remember you for that film, or maybe that's not even longer true?
No, it's okay, but I compare it to Beethoven because his hit single was the Mondschein Sonata, and everybody was talking about this Mondschein Sonata also to Ludwig van, like your Mondschein Sonata is over. And then his response was, I've written better work.
So we have your Mondschein Sonata.
Yeah.
We have the number 9, where you stand on the geographical North Pole. These are 2 pieces that I would say are single idea films. They're very iconic, they're very compelling, but I can explain them to anyone in one sentence. Although many other works are more complex. Your recent works, even you talk about it becoming semi-narrative kind of films. Is that like, could you imagine going back to the single idea iconographic films, or how do you see this development?
Well, what I just said, that I try to analyze how composers work. And then I thought that they use their state of mind to come up with a mood that says everything that you want to try, but it's the shortest abstraction, almost the core of a mood. And at that time when I was in the Rijksacademy, I was really trying to reduce things to almost nothing. And these 2 films are a good example of that. But then I also realized that, once I have the perfect idea, or like the shortest possible, then I'm become like a production slave of my own idea that takes a lot of time and everything. And it's not so much fun for me. I think also probably Beethoven also meant that, the Mondschein Sonata probably, I mean, he wrote like all kinds of orchestrated things, which probably took months with all kinds of different lines and everything. So the simple idea for yourself is not that not that challenging. I think our species like challenges. So maybe not all the challenges lead to something as simple and powerful, but you also have to make it, or try to make it fun for yourself.
And then maybe to continue in this, in the first works you're perhaps trying to alter what is the state of mind that we have created with ballerinas on the street, or in an other movie on the boat in the river when somebody just falls from the sky into the water. So there's lots of elements that you're adding into what is reality there. And perhaps this one where you are standing on the North Pole for 24 hours is a very bare little moment, but it might also precede the works where you are trying to deal with very big things, being in a small hut in San Fernando Valley waiting for an earthquake, or trying to be smaller in the landscape and not trying to make alterations to it. Do you see that difference in your work too, or is it just a projection?
Well, I think number 8 and 9, things I was doing at the time, they were mostly just performance art pieces in a way. So the location also matters, not really in a way. It could have been anywhere. Right. And then with number 12, I visited and also the locations where I filmed, and I like those places. So I tried to have another layer with the nature there. Right. So there was a complication, like trying to make broaden my, in a way, my kind of abstract core one-liner to something broad than that. You know, all of these things add layers. Also, this landscape is beautiful, and
yeah. And then, while putting these layers, you're also actually putting layers, if I may say so, onto yourself, on the endurance that we touched on while actually rehearsing as a piano player, because you're actually offering yourself. No, it's the wrong way of saying. You're submitting yourself to physical exercises that most of us would perhaps not even survive. Running for a day, swimming for hours, marathons, climbing mountains. What is this endurance adding to you, and why did you get actually lost in it?
Well, I grew up, I was competitive downhill skiing, so I think that's where my competitive mindset comes from. Mm-hmm. And I like challenges, and at some point I started to run marathons, and then I was running.
You don't just start running a marathon,
no,
right?
You train. Actually, when I made the North Pole piece, then I thought I have to stand there for 24 hours, I better be fit. So then I started to run every day, like 10 kilometers or something, and I got addicted. And after I made the piece, then I ran my first marathon in Helsinki. Was very slow, but I thought I can probably do it faster. And at that time, I was probably sporting 1 or 2 hours a day. And I thought, oh, I'm probably doing that for some reason, a non-verbal reason that is maybe universal in a way. Mm. So that's why I mean, my life and my art are very close to each other. So I was sporting there probably almost, I don't know how many percentage of my time, but it made sense that it also showed up in my work.
Yeah.
In many of your pieces, you somehow, I don't know how to put it, get close to death, flirt with death, refer to death. I mean, already in number 3, you're standing on the balcony, making people think you could jump, the icebreaker you walk in front of, falling from the water, being hit by a car, number 2. What, maybe I should say, what did death mean to you, and what does it mean now after your accident, where you actually, not even in a film take, not in a film recording, but in everyday work from travel from A to B, got hit and got very close to death, closer than you've ever been. What does death mean for you as an artist and personally?
Well, the fragility of our being is something that kept me busy. And Well, I see our species as, in a way, talking monkeys that realize that they're going to die. And I think that at least that really takes a lot of my mind power. I remember when I think I was 10, I realized I was going to die myself. And that also brings a kind of question, like, oh shit, I'm going to die too. What is the... So I like to flirt with that possibility of, you know, taking it out or not. Because it's something that we all have to deal with, and it drives me crazy how short one person's life is, and what is the point of all of it. So it's just an existentialistic issue that we probably all have.
Does it connect to, I mean, some of your films, but also some of your interviews, you explain about having depressive periods in your life. Does it connect to this kind of personal moods in certain moments? Or as you just explained, more this overall notion that our life will end sometime?
Both, I think. Well, I have two. My personality has two extremes. One really black-hearted, dramatic side that realizes that I'm, you know, not forever. This is all temporary. And on the other side is a very notion of beauty and all these things that come together that just makes things bearable. So I like to show it that, okay, maybe the first being is unbearable in a way, but it's also beautiful. So it's two extremes of my personality.
Then also this is what a lot of endurance sporters say, that by pushing their physical limits, of course, they're trying to push boundaries of life and death.
Yeah.
This is something that you might recognize because...
Yeah, I think we all do that in a way, but I mean, I was also mountaineering, but then I thought this goes too far for me.
Yeah.
Because I remember after climbing the Aconcagua in Argentina, which is almost 7,000 meters, I think at that time also with this existentialistic crisis, I was looking for wisdom, and I heard people say, like, you climb up a boy, you come down a man, or when you reach the summit, you realize that it was all worth it, all the hardship and so when I reached the summit of Aconcagua, I thought this is the most. Well, I thought it was the most stupid thing I ever did.
But then, on a very practical level, and returning to the accident that you had, your physical exceptionality of being such a good sporter and having such a good physique helped you to survive an accident.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it was a really bad accident. Probably most people would have not survived it, but it also makes it a bit harder because I thought, okay, now I got a second chance. I was a bit stronger than the accident. Why? What is the whole... So these kind of questions really kept me busy for years trying to figure out what is the meaning of all of this. And it's also hard to realize the randomness that, you know...
It almost seems like destiny's been smashing you in the face saying you can climb a mountain, but we'll just make sure you have an accident on the street.
Well, could you describe just briefly what happened? Berlin, on your bicycle from A to B?
Yeah, I just got hit by it. So I guess it's just a disgusting story, but a very bad accident.
Yeah.
So, but I'm making a film about it now, so that will be there.
Yeah.
Actually, spoke to a witness who was standing on the street, so it describes exactly what happened. But it's not, you know, it's just there's no point to do it now.
No.
Maybe before we continue, a household message for those viewers who would like to ask questions to Guido. That's possible. Questions at impact.nl via email, and I think also in the chat. It will end on your iPhone, not yet on
Oh yeah,
my
that's
phone.
why these devices are on the table.
So yeah, welcome to ask questions to Guido.
Well, actually, there's quite a few already.
All right.
No.
So it might be that it's a question by Elisa Sereda. Thank you, Elisa. In the poetic part, doesn't the word just turn out to be powerless in the face of the visual image?
Well, I think there are no rules, but it's just more like, I think my personal creative life is more like trying stuff and just experimenting. And you know, somebody might think that, somebody might think something else, but I think you can't, you know, it's not a recipe we are making. So sometimes it might be something for a person, not for another, but you never know. I have a couple of works that I really like myself, so at least that keeps me going. But the music is a big part of that.
Yeah. So then, maybe to music after the endurance sport, because you had a very long recovery trajectory after you've had your accident. You were in. Let's not make the mistake of referring to the revalidation center as something else in the revalidation center. How long did you have to be in there, and how long were you not able to actually physically move?
I don't know exactly, but I was, well, I had my accident end of May, and I left the Recovery Institute in November that same year. But that's.
So then, during that time, was that a period, which you sometimes hear about people when suddenly a lot of structures fall away, that you had a lot of freedom and a lot of eureka moments, or you were?
Well, it's changed my focus, because I was challenge obsessed. But then all of a sudden, like holding a glass and not, you know, spilling something on the floor was already a challenge. So it made that part of my life easier. You know, I didn't have to run a marathon under 3 hours, but holding a glass and not spilling is already something.
Yeah.
And also then realized that all the things I were doing, they were powerful, they were fulfilling, and I was missing, but it's a kind of a cliche that, you know, once you can't do certain things anymore, then you realize how worthful that it was.
Yeah. And then I was thinking that perhaps in relation to your work, when there's you trying to challenge that reality around us by doing very physical things, looking for these challenges, and then there's also that other side that you find in music theory, and also in playing chess, where there is very much a beauty of order, but that is mostly a theoretical order, so that is not within the reality. And I was wondering if perhaps in these months that you are in a revalidation, your mind wandered off more to these spaces of theoretical order and beauty than to the harsh realities around you.
Both, I think. Like, well, this was a long recovery process, but also my cameraman came to the Recovery Institute. We also filmed there. But I basically, well, it's almost like a rebirth in a way. So it's almost like asking a pianist, like when he was a baby, maybe he was, like to do something. All these things are not relevant in a way, or not, but it's just.
So then you might perhaps even conclude that after such an experiment in your life, with your own life, you would come back to the bare minimum, but your movie that is coming out in September, number 18, is much more than this bare basic. It's including fiction parts.
Yeah, because during the recovery I did a lot of thinking, also, what happened to me, who am I, blah, blah, blah. And then at some point I realized that a deep minority complex saved my life. And I thought that's a good log line for a feature film, but it's all verbal thinking, but that's basically where it started off. And then I made a film script in years. I worked with a producer also. She helped a lot in trying to make everything to the bare minimum in a way. But it's...
But was it the minority complex that made you start building on your conditions, running, skiing, all the crazy endurance things that you've been doing?
Well, you can call it overcompensating. But
compensating what?
Minority.
And what kind of minority feelings did you have?
Well, it's, I don't want to dive deep into psychoanalysis, but we filmed also, we worked with a person who plays me when I was 10 years old, so then you'll see where all my traumas come from. And he did a good job at it, but it's... I guess we all have our traumas in a way, and it's also a personality, Some people go crazy because they're out of apples, and other people are okay with the fact that their arm is amputated. It's just a mindset. But
it's not easy maybe to see your films. People can go to Amsterdam. If you live in the Netherlands, that's where I think a good selection of your work can be seen. Are there any, I don't know, film releases? Are there other ways for people not in the Netherlands to see your films right now?
Well, now the feature film is going to be out in September. And I've been working on that for like 6 years now or something. And in that sense, it's my opus magnum, I think, because it's, I don't know, it's,
We hope it will get an international release, so...
Yeah, it will.
It will, for sure. Okay.
Then maybe onto that film, because in the film, it's built out of little... give me this, and also give me the other glass. There's fragments that are already in the show in Amsterdam, and there's one little scene where you go out hunting for mushrooms, and then you say looking out for mushrooms is the closest a vegetarian gets to hunting, or something like it.
Anyway, so when I was a child, I thought, well, either become a pianist or an inventor or a comedian. I always loved to make people laugh. It's a beauty that, our species had, that we can make each other laugh. And also in the recovery, I heard my partner talking when I made my first joke. Then she said, okay, he's back. And that's also true because what I just said, that, we realize that we're not going to be around forever. And that's, we can do two things or a couple of things, but we can go real down or we can just laugh about it. And I think laughing about it is all we can do. And so that's also going to be a big part of the film.
And yet there's also very serious tones, of course.
Yeah.
I'm hinting at the Ten Commandments that are also there in the movie, which is maybe something that people will be laughing about, perhaps, but it seems very serious to put these things on a stone tablet and put it in a movie.
Well, also because I was almost dead, then you also start to think, what is, what's the reason of all of this? I'm also from the Dutch Bible Belt. I was baptized as a Catholic, so all these things, I'm not religious, but still it kind of makes sense. And also, my father died 9 years ago, and I wanted to make an ode to him in a film way. So he's also part of the film. So actually the 10 commandments are the epitaph on this stone that's on his grave.
Yeah, and then rule number 10, you say, laughing is perhaps the best reaction in the face of the futility of all of it, but happiness is then overrated.
Yeah, well, I think so. I think we're through evolution. I think we're basically guided by. We're always looking, how can we be more happier and all this. I don't think that's the meaning of life, of be happy. I don't know. But although I do love humor.
So then, maybe, and it's Easter, people, so we're into these questions on the metaphysical. If happiness might not be the one thing that we are here for on earth, what could be that one thing that we are all here temporarily?
Random.
Just randomness.
Just everything is random.
Yeah.
But also what I learned in my recovery, that the people around me, especially my partner, they're so valuable, the only thing you have are the people. That's just a fact in a way.
But you say everything is random. There are a few fascinations in your work: chess, music, mathematics.
Yeah.
There's not much randomness in chess, I would say. Music maybe, mathematics not. Maybe share with us the beauty of those sciences, games, arts, and how they connect with your work.
Well, I'm a nerd. And I like challenges, I like kind of games, and chess is a game, of course, also music theory, all these things. In a way, it's maybe not exactly like verbal thinking, but more like kind of more like quest thinking, solving thinking. Thinking that this and this, and I also this chess piano. I play a lot of piano and also chess.
Maybe
and,
we need explaining to a few words what a chess piano is.
Yeah.
Maybe in your own words.
Well, at that time I studied orchestration. So I wrote for different instruments, and then I tried to become a grandmaster. And I was staring either the keys of a chess board or the clavier of a piano, and these black and white fields just kind of started to mix around in my head. And I thought, well, chessboard has 8 squares, it's an octave, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. If you could change the H into an A, you have the scale of A minor. So a chessboard is musically in A minor. So I decided to make a chess piano. And it's a bit like with with the Icebreaker movie, just fast, simple idea, and then, well, this for sure was 2 years' work. But about this, my humor, I sometimes describe what I'm doing as sit-down tragedy. I think that makes sense, because I'm a failed comedian, so it's not like stand-up comedy, but sit-down tragedy. And also when I walk around in I look at people sitting down, and they all have long faces.
Well, I have to admit, I had to laugh a few times.
Yeah, sure.
But I think I would like to also Ion's question on if you can say if all things are random and then there's the order in the chess in the music theory. What would that, we don't want to be your therapist, but what could that mean in your work, that there's this one side that is all about perhaps an order, and that's a challenge to find that order or to play with that order, as opposed to the randomness? Or
well, I did say that happiness is overrated, but these eureka moments are moments of happiness. So I figured it out, or like this is kind of, so it is happiness, and but I think that it is overrated, but you can still enjoy it.
But isn't that like the same maybe endorphin kick that you get from running? Here's a theoretical system, be it music, chess, mathematics. There are rules, and you can maybe not fight them, but you can at least achieve something within that system.
Yeah, I think so. Well, after I ran my first marathon, I thought I want to go faster, because I finished 4 hours and 15 minutes.
oh, Jesus. No, sorry. Congratulations.
That was the first marathon. It was very slow. But anyways, then I started to train, then I ran a marathon on 4 hours. Then I started to train more, then I ran under 3:45, then I ran under 3:30, then I ran under 3:15 a few years further. Then I thought maybe I can go under 3 hours. And I was training 10 hours a week for many years. And that gave my life, not meaning, but structure. Just, I'm a runner. And then in 2013, I ran the Berlin Marathon in 2:57. When I finished it, I was like, yay, I made it. And
then you get a glass of awful beer, back in Berlin.
Yeah, but also that I thought, now what? It answered my challenge away, and I did not know exactly what the next challenge would be. So then I thought,
it wasn't like 2:40. I mean,
no, because
you made step after step. Why would the challenge suddenly end when you make 2:50 or 2:56?
Well, also because I thought that if you run 2:57 or if you run 2:46, it sounds the same to me. But it's still under 3 hours, of course. It's just my mind, but it's just, No, I just had this idea, I want to run a marathon under 3 hours, whether it is 2:15 or 2:57, whatever, it's the same. But that I was looking for a new challenge, but that's why in a way the recovery was good for my mind, because I thought, well, everything, like I said, is holding a glass or doing things or even playing the piano. It's just everybody will be impressed by something very simple. But it did make my life more positive in a way. Just moments, having conversations with people and everything. But of course, people say that people realize what you have, what you can do, but of course, when you can't do it anymore, then it's easier to understand.
We're getting close to the the end also of our interview. I don't know if we have some audience questions. I have for sure one question.
I also have one question, and then audience questions.
Okay.
Sorry. Also, at a certain moment, you started composing music and using your own music in your films. Now, perhaps having been through what you have been through and looking back at, I'm going to use that word again, futility of life, so that you can also make your own rules. You even did. Are you feeling more secure about you being a musician and then also using much more of your own music in your works?
Well, the good thing that I make film music, so that gives me the freedom to actually, if I would be a contemporary classical composer, I think then you have much more issues to deal with. But it gives me freedom, always has. But now also, when I was playing the piano, I thought, well, this is probably the best recovery I can do. So they all told me that in a rehab institute when I was playing piano. So it made it a bit more, actually I enjoyed it more, but I don't know if the people around me enjoyed it so much playing.
We'll ask them next time, I think.
Yeah, maybe we can end with your best film, which is according to yourself number 14. And it's more that I was surprised that I don't know many artists that are so clear and outspoken about one of their works being the best, especially when it's not the latest one, because that would be a logical thing to say. But this is one of, well, it's not the oldest, it's, well, we can tell there's a nice numbering in your films. It's not, so how, and do you think that your new film will then become better, or do you already know now that it's not going to be like that?
It's going to be totally different, so it's almost impossible to compare them, although there's a lot of parallels. But, I made this work when I was 35, so I had my midlife crisis then. And
the early one. Age 35, go ahead.
Well, that is
one of your midlife crises.
Yeah, the first one. I almost died in the second one, so that's a bit hard. But somehow I wanted to say a lot of things, and then I felt like I managed. And also,
because for those who don't know, this is the triathlon and Chopin. Could you maybe just briefly explain the film?
Yeah, well, like I said, I had my midlife crisis, so I wanted to make an autobiographic film. And when I was growing up, I had two heroes. One was Chopin, the other one was Alexander the Great. And they both left their home when they were 19 and they never returned. And then at the time I was living in New York, I was living in Finland, I was living in Amsterdam, so I also felt like I don't have a home. So all this things started to make parallels to me, and then I realized, or I decided to make a film about Alexander the Great, Chopin, and this dude. So maybe that's why I love it, because it just puts me in
the footsteps of two other temporary persons on this earth.
And also I'm super happy with the music, because I think the music is, like we said, it's my first love. So.
Well, I think I can say also on behalf of some other people that at least I'm happy that you didn't stick to music only, because then we would not have seen all the films. Looking at the clock and the people on the other side of the camera are telling us that we need wrapping up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We can only highly recommend to go to the Eye Museum. I think it's the 22nd of May, something close.
29.
29, so that's the closing date. And there's a few interesting items in our portal, interviews, a radio show in Dutch with an hour-long also interview with you, and of course online there's a lot of interviews with you to find. Thanks a lot, Guido.
For those people watching live, you might be joining us for a chat with some people in the rooftop bar. So if you're watching live now, if you're on YouTube, sorry if you have the opportunity, but if you're watching live, join us there. And I think we officially need closing off by saying that our next Impact TV episode will be screening on May 12th. And I guess will then be, again, somebody with music and a filmmaker, Don Letts, from London, who was there when punk and reggae collided. Perhaps see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.